Back again for another video. This time it's team selection for game week 24. But first, as always, we're going to go through game week 23 and see how I got them. Let's get into it. And yeah, this week was a good week. Managed to get a green arrow after 3 red arrows in a row. The 3 green arrows saw me go from 17k all the way up to 61k. So to get a green arrow this week, it was needed because I've been struggling ever since I moved out Thiago, and I transfer him in. He doesn't score, but I do get a green arrow. Go figure. But we'll go through the team quickly. Raya only managed 1 point this game week. He had 2 clean sheets in a row going into this game against Man United. However, was unable to have any chance against the 3 goals that went in against him. Obviously, we know about that Dorgu goal. The Cunha goal was a brilliant finish. So yeah, he didn't really stand much chance, but God, sometimes I realize why people don't like going for Raya as their keeper, because if he does concede and the clean sheet of course gets wiped, then he doesn't offer much else anyway, because he doesn't make saves. Arsenal are either tough at the back and they concede a sloppy goal, 1 goal against a team that doesn't really pose a threat, or in Man United's case, they have 3 shots on goal and 3 of them go in. He doesn't make a save and he doesn't get any save points. So he's either going to get 1 or 2 points or 6 points, and that's about it. So I can understand the frustration when it happens to me like this. I can understand why people don't like putting Raya in goal. Then we move on to the players that did get me points. Anderson got an assist, 1 bonus point and defensive contributions. He managed 8 points and he didn't even get a clean sheet. So yeah, really happy with that. It was a fixture I wasn't actually expecting much from. Brighton are a decent side. I expected them to score, to be honest, and when they did, I didn't think I was going to get anything from Anderson. So for him to come out with an assist, bonus points and defensive contributions, really happy with that. Anderson is always going to be in the team when Fulham are at home. He just seems to be able to pick up a lot of points at home. So yeah, I will continue with Anderson in future. Then Chris Richards managed to get a late goal for Palace against Chelsea. He doesn't often come up with many attacking returns. I mean, we lost 3-1. But when Richard scored that goal, I mean, at least I could have celebrated that one a little bit more because it meant some points on the board from him. He managed to get 7 points. And going into that game, I actually thought that Palace had a chance of winning the game. And then JD Campo passes it to Esteval and the rest is history. So that ruined that. And then into midfield, and Saka, I made captain after we got some leaks before the deadline that Haaland and Foden were going to be benched. I managed to move the captaincy from Haaland to Saka just before deadline closed. It didn't pay off anyway. He managed to get 2 points and doubled to 4. So the league didn't really pay off, but maybe another day it will. Then Foden, as we know, was benched. Enzo came up with a goal after taking the penalty for Chelsea. Debatable whether it was a penalty. Not really sure where JD Campo can put his arms, but that's a topic for another day. So yeah, I brought Enzo in last week and he's managed to return in both weeks. So it's good going, and he's now going into even better fixtures. So hopefully this form can continue. And then Anderson, another 5-pointer, defensive contributions, clean sheet and 2 points. So managed to get 5 again. Anderson hasn't got a 2-pointer since game week 14. The phrase ticking along, I mean, you'd put that right under Anderson's name because that's just what he does. Ticks along, picking up 3-pointers, 4-pointers, 5-pointers, sometimes gets an attack in return and gets more points than that. And yeah, just keeps adding it. They all add up. And then finally in midfield, Semenyo managed to get a goal. Had an expected goal involvement of 0.32, so wasn't really in the game, but he did take his chance well. It was a nice touch with his right foot before placing it into the bottom corner with his left. So promising going forward. Still unsure whether I should keep Semenyo, but that's something we'll talk about later on in the video. Then my strikers both blank, so there's nothing to talk about there. However, I did bring in Thiago for Ekitike. Ekitike was benched as well, so whilst Thiago didn't score, I'm glad I'm away from Ekitike because despite the news that Slot said he was rested, Ekitike's just been disappointing. I'm glad I'm away from him. Back to Thiago. Hopefully things pick up from here. And then on my bench, nobody played. Goodmanson, Keane, Gu. None of them played. Obviously, Keane suspended. Gu's always on the bench. Goodmanson's now injured for the foreseeable. Not sure when he's back. So the defense is definitely something that needs to be addressed. So overall for that game week, I got 50 points. Now sees me on an overall points of 1372. And my rank is now 42,945. That saw me climb from 61,355 to 42,945. So fingers crossed we can go into game week 24, get another green arrow and get closer to that 10k. That's what I'm targeting this season. Now let's talk about some potential transfers that I'm considering and how I'm going to do it, because I've only got one transfer, but I do have 2.8 million in the bank. So my first potential transfer for game week 24 that I'm considering, it's been this for a couple of weeks. I've wanted to get Mbeumo in and he's scored in both game weeks. I've considered him. I've also wanted to get rid of Semenyo those 2 weeks. Man United, I thought I'd hold on to him because I wasn't sure how Man United would perform against City. Turns out they did very well. And then in game week 23, I couldn't get rid of Semenyo then because he had Wolves at home and he was almost guaranteed to start that game. He did come away with 8 points, so I'm glad I didn't move him on. But I am now in a position where it could be a good time to move him on. He's got Tottenham away, then Liverpool away, and then Fulham at home, which is probably a decent fixture. But those two fixtures, they could be better. And when you look at Mbeumo's, Fulham at home and Tottenham at home, then West Ham away, they seem a lot better. And Man United seem to be in good form. Mbeumo's playing up top. It just makes sense to move to Mbeumo. The only thing for me is, do I really need to do it right now when I have other issues in defense? But as you can see, 15.4 points projected from Fantasy Football Hub for Semenyo and 17.8 for Mbeumo. So in terms of the player to go for over the next 3 game weeks, it is Mbeumo. But let's talk about the issues in my defense and what I'm thinking about doing. So clearly from my game week 23 review, you can see that I have issues in defense. Goodmanson's now injured. Keane is back from suspension. However, Braithwaite did come on for Everton in the Monday night fixture against Leeds, which means that Keane's minutes are now going to be limited or split between the two. And obviously that is an issue when Keane's 4.7 million. I've got no backup on the bench because Goodmanson is now injured. So Keane is the obvious player that I would need to replace. Everton have Brighton away, Fulham away and Bournemouth at home. Does he start any of those games? I'm not so sure, and because of that, I'm considering moving him on to Daniel Munoz. It might be a little bit early. Palace have Nottingham Forest away, then Brighton away, but after that they do have a good set of fixtures where they have Burnley at home, then Wolves at home in game weeks 26 and 27. So those are great fixtures to target. My thought process is get him in early before the mad rush happens where managers realise again that Munoz is fit, he's back, and he's back attacking on that right wing. He may even get an attacking return before game week 26 when he plays Burnley. And if he does, people are going to jump back on him and his price is going to rise. So why not get in early when I need to make a transfer anyway? As you can see from Fantasy Football Hub, they predict over the next 3 game weeks Keane to get 5.1 points. So they don't think he's going to play many minutes for Everton over the next 3. And they expect Munoz to get 14.5 points over the next 3 game weeks. Most of that probably coming in the Burnley game if you to look at the fixtures, but I reckon the Nottingham Forest game is going to be a tight game considering how Palace have dropped into what you could say is a relegation fight now with Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Wolves. This game you would expect to be tight given that they are both at the bottom of the table. They did draw 1-1 at Selhurst Park earlier on in the season, so that lends to my point of I think it's going to be a tight game and it could swing either way, a clean sheet for either team. Hopefully it's Palace and Munoz gets that clean sheet. But none of these fixtures have been confirmed yet. I'm probably going to leave it to the deadline to decide. I've only got one transfer, so I don't want to rush into something. And then in the press conferences, a manager comes out and says, another player's injured for me. So I'm going to wait for all the press conferences to finish, then probably decide before the deadline. All right, so let's talk about the Game Week 24 team selection. And in goal, I've got Raya. He's away to Leeds with Gabriel as well. And now, as I mentioned in the Game Week 23 review, I can see why people don't like Raya. Either he gets you a clean sheet and 6 points, or he gets you a 2 or a 1 pointer. So there's no additional points that he gets. He doesn't get save points. He very rarely gets bonus points. But I do definitely want to double up in defence. The other Arsenal player to go for would be Timber. He looked decent against United. On another day, he could have come away with an attacking return. I feel like soon it's going to come and maybe there's an opportunity somewhere to move a defender on and get Timber in. probably around the wild card. I'm definitely considering the move away from Raya and actually doubling up in the Arsenal defence with Gabriel and Timber. Then, as I mentioned, with Munoz, Palace have Nottingham Forest away. I've got Richards anyway, so I am going to play him. Like I said, I think it's going to be a tight game. It's not the greatest fixture. All my defence seem to be away from home, and that goes for Anderson as well. He's away to Man United. Maybe earlier on in the season, I would have been okay with playing Anderson against Man United. They were not really scoring many goals. They didn't have much of an attacking threat, but that seems to have changed since Michael Carrick's come in, changed the formation, and Burma's on fire. Bruno Fernandes on fire, so much so that I'm considering captaining him this week. But for now, it has to be Anderson unless I make a change with Keane moving to Munoz. And into midfield, Saka, again, Arsenal, they're away to Leeds. So yeah, it's a tough fixture. Leeds are always good at home. I always say that. And yeah, they always manage to pick up points. So it's going to be a tough fixture for Arsenal. However, I do expect them to come away with the win. Hopefully Saka can get a return. He has been disappointing. What's that, 13 games without an attacking return in all competitions. Not what you need from your star player. Hoping he can turn that around because he is dropping in price, which means he's becoming a differential. But yeah, need an attacking return from him soon. Then Fernandes has got Fulham at home. Definitely a consideration for captaincy there. He's in form now, playing that number 10 role, and that suits him really well. Hopefully that continues because yeah, Bruno's not going anywhere. He's probably going to be in my team for the rest of the season. And then Enzo, for the third game week in a row, could he get an attacking return? He's at home to West Ham, so it's definitely a possibility. Palmer does seem like he's going to play in this one, so probably means that Enzo's off penalties, but he does have some attacking threat. Hopefully he can get something in that game. Then Anderson, home to Crystal Palace. I reckon he'll get defensive contributions in this. Probably nothing more than that. Hopefully nothing more than that, given that he's playing Palace. And then Semenyo, away at Tottenham. As I mentioned, it's not a bad fixture. Tottenham aren't so great at home. They do concede goals. Semenyo could definitely pick up something, but I feel like his benching is going to come around at some point. I know he's playing well, but Foden was playing well. Then it dropped. Then his form dropped off a cliff, and now he's on the bench. So that could easily happen to Semenyo. It seems to happen with City players. I don't know if I want to be here owning him when that happens. Then the forwards. Currently, I've got the armband on Haaland. He has been struggling off late, but he did manage to get a goal midweek in the Champions League. Tottenham have been struggling, especially at home, so hoping Haaland can get something in this game. He does seem to have a good record against them. He scored 4 goals and got 1 assist in 7 games. And 3 of those goals came away at Tottenham, so it's not a bad return. Let's hope he can get something there. Thiago does have Villa away, which is going to be a tough fixture. Villa are one of the informed teams in the league, but when you've got a player who's on penalties, you never know what can happen. So yeah, as I mentioned, probably going to do a transfer Keane to Munoz. I do have the option of going Keane to Chalobah to target those 4 really good fixtures for Chelsea. But I feel like going for Chalobah would be a short-term move, given that fact that he's got the 4 great games, and after that, Chelsea's fixtures do get a little bit more difficult. Whereas, as we've seen in my transfer targets video, Munoz fixtures are a lot better for the next 6 game weeks and beyond that as well. So probably going to go for Munoz over Chalobah. It's just whether I take a hit to move on Semenyo from Burma, which doesn't feel like the right thing to do, considering Semenyo is fit and available and he's likely to start. On the flip side of that, taking the hit now means that going into next game week, I won't have to make any changes. Semenyo's gone, so I don't have to worry about him not playing against Liverpool or getting subbed early. I'll have Mbeumo in the team, I'll have Munoz in the team, and so I won't need to make any changes going forward. My team looks pretty good from game week 25 onwards if I make these 2 transfers. So that's the benefit of taking the hit. Thinking further ahead, I can then keep rolling my transfers and hopefully build them up to 4 or 5 depending on injuries. And that's it for this video. What are your thoughts on my team selection? Let me know in the comments below. If you missed the top picks or fantasy focus video for game week 24, there's a link on the screen now, and I'll confirm if I make the transfers on X, and I'll create a post on YouTube as well. Thank you for watching. If this video helped, like, comment and subscribe. As always, green arrows and enjoy the football.